It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall, an Articles of News episode. Forgive the absence of the Cultural Hall. This here show available in podcast form. I'm not going to go into it. Just trust us. That's what it is. Been a little busy. Been traveling the world, as it were, or the Intermountain West part of it. This is a Articles of News episode. It's me, Richie T. I bring in another person, and we discuss news articles in and around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Sometimes we banter about it. I know for sure that today, with Russ Wild from Texas, that we will banter more than we'll get to stories. There will be fewer stories and more banter. Russ and I know each other for, junior year of high school, so that's at least 3 years that we've known each other.
It's a fortnight.
Yeah, we used to be on the radio together, and now you come in on occasion, and your wife as well, Chow, will come in on occasion. We'll talk news articles. I appreciate you being here. Thanks, sir.
No problem. Good, happy to be here. Apparently, there was some news while you were gone.
Yeah, and I'm impressed that you have not melted. I have heard that Texas has been 1 degree less of hell for the majority of this summer. Is that correct?
It has been an uncomfortable summer, but you make it through. My wife has this thing where she wants to decorate for Halloween, like I don't know, July 1st, but won't decorate for Halloween until the low overnight temperature is in the 60s.
Okay.
And we finally hit that this last week, so it was down to a chilly 69. And so the Halloween decorations come out.
Yeah, of course. That seems like one of those arbitrary things like you always hear husbands do, where it's like, I'm not turning on the AC until Memorial Day, or those kind of things.
Right.
That's pretty awesome. I love how arbitrary.
Yeah, I said something like, it's like it's almost more than a month, right? Because you have that thing, and I'm like, you don't decorate for Christmas until Thanksgiving, and that's technically less time. And she's like, what do you mean? You decorate for Christmas on November 1st? So apparently the Christmas tree's going up the day.
What temperature does it have to be for Christmas?
Warm enough for the baby Jesus in
his manger in April, but we celebrate in December. Got it.
Yeah, no, it's strictly get those decorations up at Christmas time at our house, but apparently I didn't remember it being November 1st, but apparently that's the go time.
Okay. Do you guys watch The Sound of Music when you put up Christmas decorations too?
No. Should we?
That was the thing we did, swear, for 15 years. Sound of Music was always on TV on whatever day we would put up Christmas at my grandma's house. So we'd always be like, the irony of like having the freedom to put up our Christmas tree whenever we want, when the Nazis were trying to capture the Von Trapps. I mean, it was incredible.
Very, very appropriate.
Yeah. So that's the tone and timbre of this episode as we talk about various news articles.
It took 2.5 minutes to get to Nazis.
Yep. That's how it goes. What's that rule? What's that law? Everything gets to Hitler. What's that law called? There's a thing for it.
Is it Godwin?
Let's see. I'm going to Google it so everyone's going to appreciate that I'm doing this while we're doing an episode.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch people do it.
Yeah.
Patreon subscribers.
It's Godwin's law. If you don't know,
did I say Goodwin?
I know. I think you said Godwin. I'm not going to go back and listen to it. That's for sure. Godwin is Godwin's law, short for Godwin's law, or the rule of Nazi analogies, is an internet adage asserting that as an online discussion grows longer, regardless of topic or scope, the probability of a comparison to Nazis or Adolf Hitler approaches 1. Mike Godwin is the one who originally referred to this in a Usenet group discussion. He stated that he introduced Godwin's law in 1990 as an experiment in memetics.
And you just proved it.
Yep, there it is. See?
Thanks,
got it done quick. Good for you. So new with me besides traveling, and I, maybe I'll talk about it. I was in Wyoming, Moab, northern Nevada, near Reno, but not really. doing the weddings and things like that, all while having a pinched nerve in my C6 C7 vertebrate.
How old are you?
For real, like in the last 6 months, I feel like I've aged like 1,000 years. I have a pinched nerve to the point that, and people, if you've ever had this before, my thumb and pointer finger on my left hand are like a little numb, like a little tingly, not numb, tingly, like I can feel them, but it's like that feels a little different than the rest of the fingers. I happened to be at a restaurant today where I saw a kid from high school I haven't seen for 25 years who happens to be a nurse practitioner working with people that are in automobile accidents. So people that deal with C6, C7 pinched vertebrate nerves. And I met a doctor, and so I'm going to go behind the old clinic and get it done where I can afford it, as opposed to in the office and have my coupon insurance pay for it.
Well, that's good. That's the advantage of having dinner at 4 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being as old as you are.
Yeah. And it really was 4 p.m. How funny. Because I'm 100. And, you know, I also had a tooth ripped out of my mouth, all the dumb things, all the just old. It's just, I'm wearing out.
What are we going to do?
I know. We've got a lot of news stories. Normally we take a break and then we come back in the second block and do articles of news. I'm not going to do that here. This is just going to be a two-part episode. Russ and I will start to do news, but then coming up in the second half of this, we're going to do the temple ticker. Corey K. Ward coming in, talking about he recently went through the St. George Temple since it's been kind of updated and ready for dedication, I believe, in December. He'll come in and talk about that. I got to go through that, plus the 3 temples all in one day. That's coming up in the second half of Articles of News as the temple ticker. But right now, let's do some news. Hit it, Peter. And away we go. We're going to get into some, controversial things. Some, I don't know, some just...
It's bizarro.
Yeah. News. And I want to get to that. I want to tell everyone, here are the stories that we will get to. We're going to talk about Tim Ballard, you know, M. Russell Ballard's son. We're going to get to that story. Also, we're going to talk about Cardston, Canada, Cardston, Alberta. Big news out of Cardston. Going to talk about that. Mom talker Taylor Frankie Paul. We're going to talk about her today as well. And also a documentary that if you haven't watched it on Netflix, don't watch it around your kids, but you have to watch it. We'll talk about all of those things within this episode. So you heard where we're going to go. We got 4 stories and a good long time. You want to talk about M. Russell Ballard's brother first, Tim Ballard?
They're more like brothers in the sense we're all brothers.
Yeah. Gospels, sure.
Yeah, what a weird weekend.
Put it in context. News me so that I know what's going on.
So Vice, the news organization, put out a story on this last little bit about Tim Ballard and his organization Underground Railroad and some of the I guess the criminal investigation that had taken place in, was it Weber County?
Davis County.
They're all the same.
Yeah, so that's Clearfield, Bountiful, north of Salt Lake, but not quite Ogden.
Now this criminal investigation had been done, but there were never charges filed. But they apparently obtained the files from it, and some of the things that they'd investigated and looked into is whether there was a crime or not. And some of it was pretty bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
In there is where there was an allegation that Tim had been using the name of Elder Ballard to fundraise and you raise money. Also, there was a lot of 10,000 pages apparently about information from a sidekick who had been speaking with the prophet Nephi. Getting information to help with the rescue operations that Operation Underground Railroad was conducting, allegedly.
Yeah. So which part of that would you like to start with?
Well, and then in response to that, and in their reporting, I'm guessing that Vice contacted the church and was like, "Hey, what do you think about this, church?" And the church responded with a very aggressive statement, which in and of itself caused a bunch of controversy, basically distancing themselves from Tim Ballard and blasting him. And they didn't mince words. They said, they never supported him and his organization or represented that they endorsed him in any way.
Which, I don't know that. I mean, here's the deal. It's a big story if you've been on the internet at all, and the comments, man, read the comments as with any of these stories. But like when the church is like, we never supported him, I think that it's important to sort of clarify a little bit. So the church on its various like media websites, I think Deseret News, I think even Church News had a story about now I did it, about Tim Ballard, hey, the way that he's doing this, and it's a proclamation of his gospel belief, and, it's the way that he's able to have his testimony. Like, it was on the church's website and is now no longer on the church's website or any of the church's properties. Anything to do with Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad, gone, wiped, clean, gone, no longer existent. And
I didn't get a chance to go to the Deseret bookstore because there's not one near me to see if his books are still on the shelf, but
I would imagine that they're gone. When you're talking in a minute, I'll search the Deseret book online and see if those books are gone. But essentially, and here is a thing.
Well, so the story comes out, and the statement from the church is in the Vice article, and then it's picked up by the Deseret News and other outlets there in Utah. And it seems a little unusual because they don't quote somebody. They're not like, the statement is the statement. It's not, this is the statement from the church, and it's this thing. It's not like said spokesman Jimmy the spokesman. Sorry, I don't remember the spokespeople's names.
The spokesman, Sam Penrod. Come on.
Yeah, it's not Sam Penrod. It was just
Sam Penrod is the spokesman.
I know. Yeah, but I mean, they didn't quote Sam Penrod. That's right.
Yeah, right.
So there was no
attribution
to the statement from the church, and so it was a lot of, which is unusual to a point, that there wasn't any attribution to. And so like there's this debate this weekend about, like, is it really from the church? Did Vice just make this up? And then it sort of became clear as these articles from the church's website about Tim Ballard started to disappear, and then it was clear that it wasn't a thing. And so, then the comments back and forth on the internet, and Ballard came out over the weekend and said, or Tim Ballard came out and was, he didn't believe that this statement was from the church at the time, and haven't heard lately where he stands on that one. But he said, he talked to a stake president and his bishop, and nobody said anything to him about, the church's response, and for them to call him, this church's statement says that what he had done was morally unacceptable. And so it's pretty strongly worded.
And betrayed.
Now the elephant in the room with all of this is that the hot rumor following Mitt Romney's decision not to run for re-election to the Senate is that Tim Ballard had his eye on that Senate seat and was about to announce his run for Senate. And maybe he will still, and maybe he won't. But it was almost viewed as the church kind of taking him out at the knees before his campaign even started, which I don't know if this would do it or not. I don't know. But you throw the political angle into it, and then and then the response from people who are fans of Tim Ballard, and it got pretty interesting in the comments, as you say.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to unpack because there's a lot of it. One comment that I saw was like, well, don't forget the church gave up on Ammon Bundy and Finicum, whatever that guy's name is that died up in Oregon when they took the wildlife refuge. Remember that guy who essentially refused to put his gun away, or was in the road, and he ended up getting killed by police up there. And so I was like, well, this seems like an odd kind of, you know, correlation or bringing this in. And then the more than a dozen in just the short time that I read that was like, this cannot be the church that I believe in. This is not the thing that they would do. They would never do this. When have they ever done something like this previously? And it's a little odd. Is that me or you? What are we doing?
I don't know.
There's some noise coming through. Oh, my phone apparently decided to turn on. But yeah, to just have.
Well, I think it's interesting because obviously the statement itself was unusual, but to have people be like, "That's not how the church does statements. They don't put out a statement to Vice." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, they don't, but they also respond to organizations when they have comments or questions.
Yes.
And if a news organization, no matter what you feel about them, asks for a comment and they choose to respond, like that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to put out a whole statement on their website first.
Right.
And
Right.
generally, that's not how it works. When I used to play reporter, I used to ask organizations questions, and like I would have been ticked if in my reporting, if I called I was working on a story about something, and then that organization essentially put out a press release on their own website about the thing that I'd asked them about first. I was like, wait, it's my story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, that's kind of the pattern. Like a reporter or a news organization asks a question, and then they get a statement, and that goes in the story. And that's what happened, which that part of it wasn't unusual to me, but it just seemed really, it's caught a lot of people off guard, and I don't know that we've seen all of the fallout yet from what's going to happen. Because then Glenn Beck jumps on the.
Oh, I didn't see this. I didn't see.
Oh, you didn't see Glenn Beck?
The brother Beck was in on it. What did he say?
Glenn Beck. I wish I had his tweets up. He posted a series of tweets that were basically saying that his church doesn't do these, doesn't excommunicate people by statement from their spokesperson. They don't criticize members without talking to them first. They don't. And he had a whole thread of them, which was then deleted.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that. Wow, I didn't realize that. But I mean, so here's the deal. Here's the thing that I think is the most bizarre, because I think the original thing didn't even quote that it was M. Russell Ballard. It was sort of put together, right? It said a higher church official or something like that, right? And then was later attributed to M. Russell Ballard and the name relation and all of those things. I don't think it was originally reported that was even apostle. I think they did the higher, church official. So other comments that I saw are people saying things like, well, the church is pro-pedophilia. This is just the adversary weaseling his way into the church because, and I just start reading that, and I
mean, that was a lot of the response from the people who were critical of The Sound of Freedom, the movie. If you didn't like the movie, that right. If you don't like this movie, well, you must like pedophiles.
Yeah, yeah. So he's able to now set himself up a little bit as a pariah to be like, I can't believe all of this and the video. So this was another, there's so many levels to this that is just like, I can't turn away, watch all of this stuff. There'll be a video in the show notes where this is from Fox 13, where he's up, I believe it looks like he's at the state of Utah Capitol.
I think he was in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I think he was giving a walking tour, or maybe in New England somewhere. It seemed like he was on one of the tours that he gives or the historical sites out east.
And so he's like, someone asks him, and everyone's got their phone out because this has just happened, and so they're asking about it. He's like, I don't believe that the church did this. And it's like, oh, okay. But then he calls in like a character witness essentially to this video that he's doing. It's not this formal. It's not like a courtroom setting or anything like that. But he's like, right, Jerry, this is something I'd never do. And I get it, because you would, you'd want other people to be like, no, guys, Tim Ballard, they would never, This isn't a thing that he did. Guys, you wouldn't believe it. But then in Jerry, that's not his name, walks into the video shot, and it's this guy dressed like he's ready to go to the January 6th insurrection at the nation's capital. He's dressed like a mountain man. Jerry, speak to my character, why don't you? It's like, okay, all right. What is going on here?
I think it will be interesting to see how it plays out. And then there was what I assume was just a naturally scheduled quote from Elder Ballard that they put out on church social media, and the responses to that were like, I respect your position, but you need to repent, sir.
Yeah.
It's like, it's interesting.
Yeah, and you're right. I don't think we're certainly not to the end of the story. I think that to me it seems like there has to be, because let's say on the level what it is that Tim Ballard was telling people, hey guys, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints backs me up. You should donate to this organization because they want to stop trafficking as well. Okay, I can understand why the church would want to be like, hey, just so y'all know,
don't do that.
Yeah. Don't do that, Tim Ballard. But also, just so y'all know, this is not an arm of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is not a particular organization that we put money into or support or whatever. Just want to be clear as far as that goes. But also, okay, so let's take it one step further. Let's say that he allowed people to believe the relation between himself and M. Russell Ballard, same last name. There's some relation at some point.
They're friends. They've gone on things together. They've apparently are friends or were friends or
had that kind of communication, but like as far as like familial relativity, it's like as related as you and I are to one another, right? It's probably connected at some point through some polygamous something 190 years ago, but beyond that, not any sort of relation. So let's say that he allowed people to infer that there was a relation there. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm a Ballard. Of course I am. Yeah, my good friend, M. Melvin, is that what the M stands for?
I don't know.
Yeah. So he allows that to be believed. Okay. So again, not great. The combination of the two may be worth a statement, but the people that don't at least allow that to be a terrible thing, like that those two things would be needed to be corrected in a larger scale way, like even if it's not as nefarious as maybe it makes everything sound like, but I feel like at some point it's like, we are not affiliated with this individual and this is a way that we can do this in a big way,
right? And that in of itself is like, that is all of that makes this a fascinating story and an interesting thing, and the reactions to it are all interesting. But then when you pile on the Senate seat on top of that, that's when it's like, oh, this is juicy.
Yeah.
Did that play a part in the church's decision to word their statement the way that they did? Were they trying to end his Senate campaign before it started? And if that was their intention, did it work?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it would, because I don't know that the general population obviously isn't on Twitter. The general population probably doesn't watch the news as much as some people. There's the number of people who are highly engaged in watching the news and being up to date on what's going on is not the majority.
Right.
And so could this even not have an impact on his Senate campaign?
Or
although
have an impact in a putting him into office kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that the church would have made a statement about how folks maybe not that how they should vote, but like something that they represent for, and having the membership vote a different way. So I think it'd be interesting to see
how a candidate, obviously, but yeah,
right. But it would be interesting to see, like, because in the primary, like, how would that not be every commercial you see?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Especially
haven't been said, and my church hasn't called me immoral.
right. Right. Well, and on top of all that, and I made the joke on social media today where I was like, listen, I don't know that it'll matter. We have the other senator, the member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who was like, let's figure out how the Constitution can get this guy back in. Let's figure this out. He's like, he is a modern day Captain Moroni. President Trump is, and he's still there. And you know what? He'll win again.
Yep.
Mike Lee will win as a senator for the state of Utah again.
So yeah, it'll be curious to see who all the Republican candidates end up being for that seat, and if Tim decides to go for it.
Yeah, he will. It's a certain kind of, this is the thing. It's a certain kind of person that runs for public office, good or bad. It is a certain kind of person that does that. And Tim Ballard is that certain kind of person.
That means we're gonna get to talk about him a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've beaten that horse to death.
At least for this week. I think there's gonna be so much more. It's just,
geez. What else did I tease? I don't even remember. Do you remember?
Cardston. You teased about Cardston, but I didn't know what was going on in Cardston.
Oh my gosh, you didn't hear about this? Sad day, my friend. Sad day. When Olu Elfidi started working in a Cardston pharmacy 6 years ago, he never thought he'd see the day when alcohol was served in the southern Alberta town.
They had a referendum.
There's a lot of strict laws down here, he said, so I didn't really see this coming. After more than a century as one of the last dry towns in Alberta, Cardston's 3,500 people or so no longer have to leave to buy an alcoholic beverage. Cardston Town Council voted 5-2, the two being members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I'm sure, allowing sit-down restaurants and recreational facilities like the local golf course.
I'm sure some of the 5 were members of the church too. The demographics of that town are pretty Mormon.
To apply for liquor licenses. I'd be curious to see, how that ended up rolling out. When asked, a non-binding plebiscite. I'm not sure what that is. What is that?
It was the election that they had. Basically, like, we're going to vote to. We'll put it on the ballot, but if you vote for whatever you vote for, doesn't mean we're going to do it.
Right. Okay. So narrowly divided in the town. There was nearly 1,000 votes. That's 33% of the town. 494 in favor of alcohol. 431 in favor of no alcohol. And Afidi says it's a welcome change. Everyone should have the leverage to take whatever they want. Some people want to have a few drinks here and there. Cardston's relationship with alcohol is tied to its long history with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of course, settled by members back in the 1800s. The first LDS temple ever built in Canada is there in Cardston.
That's where I was married.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why the affinity. I knew you liked Canada. I couldn't remember why. Does that mean you're married in the US of A, or did you have to do something different?
No, it just they recognize it as being the thing.
62% of the town of Cardston, Mormon.
That's why I think more than 2 members of the council.
Yeah, statistically, right? You'd have to have 4 of them would have to be members of the church in order to fall into statistics. You've always been able to drink alcohol in town. You just couldn't buy it there. Bob Taylor, Brother Taylor, says people can do what they want, but I'm LDS and I don't. So there it is. Too bad. So sad. We're about to see the downfall of Cardston.
Oh, I'm sure they'll manage.
Yeah. Man,
now that carriage museum will be able to get the big business and the tour groups. So.
You need a drink to be able to go through the carriage museum. What else did I tease? Help me. Taylor Frankie Paul. I know I talked about that. Do you know who that is?
I do. She got herself in trouble.
Yeah, the mom
She
talker, the
had a
soft swinger,
popular website, YouTube YouTuber.
YouTuber, TikToker. This is the lady that now you may be thinking of Ruby Frank, which we'll talk about in
Oh,
in
okay. I was
another.
thinking of Ruby Frank.
Yeah, no. Taylor Frankie Paul, this is the soft swinger from out in the south end of the valley, Mormon.
Right.
She got herself in trouble as well, got a little inebriated. She'd been up in Cardston, had a drink, came down to Bluffdale or Riverton or wherever she lives, threw a chair at her boyfriend as they were fighting, tried to hit him, hit her kids, ended up getting charged with a couple felonies and a misdemeanor, which she pled and, didn't have to serve any jail time or like served a day or something like that. Right.
Right.
A lot of people really angry, and rightfully so, that she threw a chair and tried to hit her boyfriend and hit her kids. Questions as to whether or not she is a fit person to have children in her home. The man that she physically assaulted has impregnated her, and the internet is starkly divided as to whether or not that is a good idea. But she continues to claim being a member of the church. She has, since her arrest, there's a horrible, man, it is not for the faint of heart, like dash cam and body cam video of her after that incident. Do not watch that with kids around. Do not watch that if you are impacted by, things like that. It is a horrible thing. She's been not sentenced, but part of her plea is that she has to go to like parenting classes. She has to go to anger management classes. She has to have a mental health therapist and a certain amount of sessions.
Perhaps Brother Penrod should issue a statement on her behavior.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Maybe Vice should ask.
Yeah, it's interesting and stuff like that, because she does consistently say, member of the church, Mormon, coming from this, right? All of these things. It is interesting that in those particular cases, and maybe it's because it's not for gain, or there's not, she doesn't have an organization, she's not trying to make money, or I don't know, whatever the thing may be. Maybe that's the difference. But yeah, it is very much, the headlines always read Mormon TikToker, whatever. So that's interesting. Third child for the household, not married to the gentleman. I'm not throwing any sort of shade necessarily. It seems like an interesting choice, and I just hope that it's the best choice for all parties involved, he said very diplomatically.
Yeah. Perhaps they can make better choices going forward.
Yeah.
In the best interest of all the children.
Yeah. Yep. What else did I tease? Do you remember now? I can't even remember what we there was something else. What did we talk? I know before we started talking, we talked about the Joseph Smith book, Richard Turley's book about the prophet Joseph. I think that's going to be kind of an interesting thing. Future guest back in the Cultural Hall. He's been here a couple times. We're going to talk with.
Yeah, I'm curious if it almost comes across as like a distillation. That's not a word. I just made it up of the Joseph Smith papers. Just kind of like, let's take all of these volumes and kind of break it down into a biography, kind of, because it felt like the statement, it seemed like the research was kind of done in parallel.
And he alluded to it when I chatted with him before about this thing that was coming, and so that's kind of exciting that that's finally coming to fruition. But as I understand it, what it is it's not about his life necessarily. It's about his. It's either about being a prophet or prophetic, or the things that he did as a prophet. That's what the book is about. It's not Emma and his father-in-law didn't like him and accusations of this. I don't think it's anything like that. I think it's a really deep dive on him as a prophet, as I understand what the book is going to be about. So we can ask him all the questions when we get him here in the Cultural Hall. I think that there's this brilliant. Do you ever read the Babylon Bee?
I do.
Oh my
I
God.
see that from time to time.
So people don't know. It is a satirical is the word. I was saying farcical is not the word I'm looking for. Satirical look at basically Christianity, right? It looks at a lot of like evangelicals, and they do time to time stories about Mormons and any sort of like religious thing. They're fairly respectful, but they're also pretty well on the nose most of the time, whatever they do, where they're like, well, like this article, for instance, the headline, I'm going to do my best because it's a little bit, you gotta read this for some of the spellings, because I think it's just so brilliantly done. They don't have actual like authors of the articles, that it just is from the Babylon Bee in general. This person has to be from Utah and has to be a member of the church to have nailed this as well as they did. And I begin. Mormon, this is the headline. Mormon parents name another kid by scooping 11 random letters out of alphabet SpaghettiOs. and and then the picture, the name of the kid is spelled out in the SpaghettiOs is Corvinley, Corvinleigh. Corvinley. Now, that's funny enough, especially if you know how Utahns, we name our kids, and because we're Utahns, we're probably Mormons, statistically speaking, etc. This article comes from Nephi, Utah, and goes on. Expecting their 13th child, Nathaniel, spelled Naethainiel, and Ruthanalili Shumway, resumed the centuries-old tradition of picking possible baby names by scooping a handful of random letters out of a can of alphabet SpaghettiOs. Quote, "Look, it's Corvinley," said Ruthanalili. Friends simply call her Ruthanali, before asking Nathaniel if they were having a boy or girl, as she'd forgotten. Quote, "Either way, I feel like little Corvinley has been waiting patiently in premortal life for his or her chance to come be with us." Her husband then stood to gather the children. Here are the children names. Are you ready for this?
I don't think I am.
Bronsabel, Drabanadi, Ali Cabri, Macy Gray, spelled Maeciegrae, Boazathor, Troylan, Morashakaba, Amanha Cabra Cadabra, Mayli Taylor, Himnomner, Lakindri, and King Benjamin. Come down to the oversized kitchen table to see what your baby's sibling will be named. The family gathered together in pure joy and excitement at the prospect of having another precious, beautiful child of God to bless their home.
I'm a little disappointed there wasn't a Don Carlos in there.
Yeah, right? Just before the kitchen floor gave out and they all crashed into the basement. Thankfully, the rows of bunk beds broke their fall. At publishing time, the family had clarified that this was their 14th child, as they had forgot about Crayson, Crayyssenn, who is serving in the Paraguay Asuncion North Mission. So hilarious. So well done. Babylon Bee, I love you. I appreciate you. That if I could spend hours writing, I feel like maybe that would be a half of a thing that I could write as good as. But that's just incredible, the stuff that they do. Nailed it. There's one other one. What else did we talk about? I teased. I wish I could remember. And we certainly could go back and go, oh yeah, that's what it was. Not going to do that. That's for sure. I don't know. I can't remember. Well, we'll come up and we'll talk about. Oh no, I do remember. Here we go.
Oh, I'm excited now because
because this is unbelievable that I've never made this connection before, ever, and it's real and it's big and it's everything that people will be talking about this week, and it's I should just continue to hyperbolize this story as we talk about it.
But I think people are listening are thinking, did he really remember what it was? Or is he still trying to think of it as he talks about how amazing this thing?
Here it is. When you think of the band Earth, Wind, and Fire, what song do you think of?
Is it that, are they the ones that do that the 21st night of September?
Yes. Yes. Good job. Good job, Russ.
About Moroni visiting Joseph Smith.
Yes. I didn't realize that that's what that song is about until just today. I was today years old. The 21st night of September is when the angel Moroni went to the prophet Joseph Smith. Nothing?
And I'm saying, I'm trying to decide, does Richie mean that the song is literally about that, or that the dates are the same and he's just connecting?
No, listen, it's the same date, sure,
right,
which I hadn't made the connection, right? But this
and,
is
and we're coming up on the 21st night of September.
Yes, and that's why it's going to be on.
And I'm going to call you 4 times that night.
Yeah.
To remind you.
Here's the thing. The older I'm getting, I'm starting to believe more firmly in conspiracy theories, like the church didn't want Tim Ballard to be a senator for some reason. Let's perpetuate that some more. But it's got to be someone will do the genealogy of someone in Earth, Wind, and Fire. But if I may, ba-dia, dia, say, do you remember? Ba-dia, dia, dancing in September. Ba-dia, golden dreams were shiny days.
I got to watch Trolls again.
Mm-hmm. Found the love that we shared in September, and now it's December, the birth month of the prophet Joseph Smith. Say, do you remember the 21st night of September? Coincidence? Yes. 100%.
Yes, absolutely.
But I never put it together as the same night as Joseph Smith was visited by the angel Moroni.
I'm excited for that day to come around here later this week, because you're going to remember finally.
Well, and the really, really, really terrible, I'm a horrible human being, look for the church to call me out about this. I would really love, and this is terrible, and I'm horrible, and I want everyone to know that I believe very much in the Book of Mormon, and I appreciate for all that it's done for my entire life, but it would please me for a jib-jab video of the picture of the angel Moroni singing September. I'm a horrible person. I'm a bad, bad person.
Let's make it.
Maybe we'll make it on Patreon and just sort of pass it around to people.
And hopefully Brother Penrod doesn't send out a statement.
Yeah, jeez. Patreon.com/The Cultural Hall. If we actually end up doing it, you'll see it there. Or if you're in the Facebook group, you have to be a Patreon saint to be a part of the Facebook group. That's it, Russ. There was probably one other story that I wanted to tease that we didn't get to.
Or you did tease that we didn't get to.
Yeah, that we did tease and we didn't get to. Or that I was going to do. Now I can't remember. But I do remember the 21st night of September. Take care.
I mean, NSYNC got back together for the sequel. That's about as good as you can get, right?
It's the threequel that NSYNC got back.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Third. Come on, you've got 100 kids, you know.
Little Braley is going to be disappointed.
Corbin Lee will be alive for the 10th Trolls video.
But they'll remember the 21st night of September.
Yes, they will. Coming back in the second half of this, we'll do temple news of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We call it the Temple Ticker. Listen, I love the Book of Mormon. The idea of Moroni jib-jabbing the 21st night of September is a little bit funny. We'll take a break. We'll come back and do that.